Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about links and how we design a page, create a link, and specifically internal anchor points. And I know that that's been an issue. A lot of people get confused. What I have here is a sample site that I put together, and I'm going to post this in the classroom. These are the files associated with this site. So I have an image. I actually have the main index page is what we're looking at here. And then I have an external style sheet that styles the page, which includes this background border on the banner here. And I also have this pick PNG image. That's this image that goes behind the links themselves. And then I have the supporting pages. So I have a 5-page mini site here, so to speak. So this my image is part of this background image right here, and this pick is this graphic right here. These other boxes, these other graphics in the site are actually in the CSS file. So let's look. First I want to show you the site itself. We have page 1, obviously, the main page. Page 2, but I put some copy in there. And I also included these anchor points, these back to top. So if you scroll down, you can return right back to the top, and I'll show you how that works in a second. Then I have page 3, page 4, and page 5. And then we can navigate freely to any page that we want. Now notice that when we're on page 1, I just want to make sure this is known here. Look what happens when we go to page 2. Notice the image shifts over a little bit. Page 1, page 2, then page 3, page 4. Now how come page 3, 4, 5, and 1 don't shift, but page 2 does? It's because when the browser encompasses copy that's longer, it's going to insert this scroll bar here, so it's going to make the image shift off a little bit. So that was the main concern visually by a couple of the students in past courses, and I had to explain it's very, very difficult. You know, obviously you want the navigation to be seamless where the image doesn't move, but when you come across with copy that is different sizes on the page and you have to scroll, this bar gets included here and so forth. So you know that's something to be aware of. Let's look at the code. We're going to start in on here. So we're going to start with the main page. I'm going to open this up with Notepad just to show you what's going on. So here's the main page. We have a doc type up top here, and this is just a comment that we have in here. And then we have the opening HTML, the head section, which is right here. Inside the head element, we have a link to our external style sheet. That's the styles.css. And then actually let's open that up as well. So we're opening that up in Notepad. We're going to have to open that up anyway. So we have the main page file and we have the CSS file, and that's linked in here in this section right here. So all the supporting pages, we're not going to open those, but all the supporting pages are basically this section right here, exactly identical with the exception of the comment. But the link is there to link to the external style sheet. That way all the pages in the site look very, very similar. So let's go back here. So here's the code for this. Then we close the head section, open up the body element, and we have what I did was block level design. So I have basically some divisions in here. I have a header division, and then I have a content division, and that actually goes all the way down to here. And then inside the content division, I have the main menu, which goes to here, and then I have the text, which goes to here, and then inside the text I have the main text content. So that's how the block level design is incorporated. So again, let's visually look at this. We have the header, and that's, yeah, you found the main page. That's this one right here. And then inside, let's go back over here to the style sheet, and we can look at the header is actually right here. So this is right here, this header is right here, and if we look at the style sheet, when you have a division you can have IDs or class items attached to it, and this one I have an ID of header. When you define that in the style sheet, I know that it's an ID because it begins with a pound sign, and the pound sign indicates that that is an ID. So the selector in the style sheet is right here. It has a pound sign preceding it. That means it's defined as an ID in the HTML file. So we can go back to the HTML file and actually find a division with an ID of header, and we know that these two relate. these two sections relate. And in this, I defined it as the header is going to be 750 pixels wide, height of 280. The margin is 0 in auto. What that basically does is, because I defined a width and a height, the margin 0 auto simply means center it. And then I defined the image, the my image that we looked at. That's the one of the Guggenheim. The background equals, and then the background is defined as URL equals my image.jpg. So that's in the root folder because there's no folders preceding that. So the header is actually this whole picture right here. And again, we defined it as 750 pixels wide, 280 pixels deep. Now anything in the header, including this text, and we can go back to the HTML section here, is right here, and that's the whole header. Now, so that's defined right here. And then when we move down, so again, anything, you can have text, you can have everything else in that division, which we did, and we defined the picture actually in the CSS portion. Then moving down, we have a division of content. Now what that did, and that was this whole issue down here, this whole element right here. So this is everything inside the content is going to pertain to whatever I declared it here. And again, I have an ID of content, and if we look at the CSS file, here's the pound sign, here's the word content, and this is again the declarations for the content division. It's 750 pixels wide, margin of 0 in auto, and padding is 10 pixels. Now this becomes important because what we're saying is everything, all of these other elements are embedded into the content division. So the menu, the text, and the main divisions are all included inside. They're all inside this content division. So all I have to do is center this one content division once, and everything inside it is automatically centered, which is pretty cool. And then I have the menu and the text, but those are side by side. There's the main content, and there's the menu items, navigation, and the content. Those are side by side. But this whole thing right here is actually, let's go back to page 1, it's easy to look at, is the content division right here. And then we have the footer to end it. And inside the content is the navigation and the copy. So that's how the file is put together. So now let's move on to a little bit. We're going to explain a little deeper inside what's going on here. So the header is pretty self-explanatory. You know, we have an image, we have some text. That's the main text that's going to be on all the pages. We can modify it from page to page, by the way. And then we have the navigation. And navigation is always going to be pretty standard, and that's the navigation right here. So you're going to find that on all the pages. That's not going to change because we have index, we have page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. You want that to be the same and in the same location on every page. So this is going to be pretty much similar on every page. And then moving on, the one thing that's going to change is the main copy, the main page copy, and the contents itself, the text. So we have the main content here, you know, and which is included into this text division. So we have this main, which is actually this right here, is actually this main class item right here. So all of these two lines, and on page 2 it's a little bit further, is all inside this main class, which is embedded into the text ID. The reason I did that, if we ever wanted to make this a 2-column layout, we still have this text ID, which is this whole box right here, and you can style a background to that differently. And then we can have just a, separate the two class items, class 1, class 2, for example, be column 1, column 2, and then be right side by side. So you can play around with that if you want to do that in the future. That's why I have this copy inside another main division. Plus it's an added benefit because I can now change the background on text, and I can actually change the background on main. So I can have a background color of this gray here, and I can actually have another background color here. So it'd be like a box in a box type of look. So there's a couple of different benefits there. And we end the file with the footer division right here, and that's just a copyright info. And that's inserted down there. And again, if we look at the style, the CSS sheet, again, I centered that as well. So that's how the CSS file works in conjunction with the HTML file, using the link tag right here, and it's referencing that external style sheet. And then in the style sheet, I styled the different elements, and I'm using the block level design using the div element, div tags, opening and closing, to create a div element, and I can style those using IDs and class items. So that's how the page is put together. So we've talked about a couple of different things. We've talked about, let's go get into back to top. We didn't cover that yet, but we did talk about images, how to insert an image in the style sheet using a URL declaration right here, which is different from the, I'm sorry, no it isn't, because I did the menu here. I did that the same way. Here's the pick for the navigation. So I included the images in the style sheet on both of these examples. Your week 1A3 assignment had your image included or inserted using the image tag in the HTML file. Both methods work. It's preferable to keep all the design elements in the CSS file. That's why we have the images in here as well. So both methods will work just fine. So let's move on here. Let's talk about page 2. So I guess I will open up page 2 just to talk about the back to top links. Going to open that up in Notepad, and if we notice this anchor tag right here, and again it is an anchor tag because it's the A tag. A is for anchor, and then the attribute is name equals top, and I have an ID for it as well, which is top as well. Why would I have name, two attributes, one for an ID and one for top? Well, if I wanted to style this back to top for whatever reason, I can also refer to the ID here. I can also, in my URL, when I'm giving this to people to find it here, I can also include the £sign and the word top in the URL. So whatever the URL would be, I would have space and then £sign top, and that would go, when they clicked it, they could go directly to this section on the page itself. And I can right here, so I can go, they can go directly to that section if that were desired. The main attribute is name. So we're going to have the anchor tag with the name equals top. Then we have another anchor tag in the copy itself when you want to, this is a selectable link for the users because it's a hyper reference, and that's the copy that they see. Return to top. When they select that text, it goes back to the ID of top, which is right back here up to the anchor point. Boom, it's associated with this anchor. So that's where it goes back and forth, and you can duplicate this many times down, which I have in the copy, and no matter where they are on the page, it goes back to the same item, which the same location, which is right up here. It's right up before the image. So that's how internal page anchors work. The links in general, if we look at the markup here, it's just I actually used a list item. This is an unordered list element. Inside the unordered list element, I used a list tag. So it's an opening and closing tag. Embedded in between there is an anchor of a hyperreference to the index.html file, which is the main page. This is the title of the file. So when they hover over it, you can see that title pop up there. You can use that. This is a pretty cool thing just to help the user know what the link is referring to, and that's part of the usability features that would help the users on the site. And then this is the text that the user would select to go to that particular location, and then we close the anchor tag. And then we have page 2, .html, page 3, page 4, page 5, so forth. And again, I changed the title to reflect what the hyperreference was to the HTML file. And of course, you also have the descriptors here that the user would be clicking on. So that's how links work. If I were to I'm on the main page, I'm actually on page 2 here. By selecting page 2, nothing really happens. What I could do is, instead of including page 2, I could just put the pound sign, which is kind of a null link. So there's a kind of a dual purpose for a pound sign. Your pound sign can also include an ID in your CSS file. It can also include, if it's in a CSS file, it indicates that that's associated with an ID in an HTML file. If the pound sign is in an HTML file and an anchor element, that pretty much means a null link, meaning it's not going to go anywhere. So that's one reason you would see a pound sign in a navigation element. But if I were to do that, I couldn't copy and paste this whole section from page to page, because I'd have to keep changing all of the pound signs, because obviously page 2 would have the pound sign, but when I'm on page 3 would be there, and so forth. So that gets a little cumbersome. So we covered anchor points, we covered links in general, we covered what the pound sign function is, and we covered external style sheets and HTML files in conjunction with each other. So that's pretty much all I have to describe in this site. Like I said, I'm going to upload this to the classroom too, so you can see what exactly the code is, and I hopefully this will get you going in week 2 of the course.